Hey, Angie agrees with you once again, and I've got the amazing Tyler Lowe with me. We're talking wellness on a Wednesday. It just happens to be a Wednesday, so we're calling this Wellness Wednesday. Tyler, good to have you back again.
Thanks for having me back.
It's all good. I'm loving your passion for wellness, regardless of age or gender, or I think wellness is obviously the core for you, isn't it?
Yeah. Wellness, I mean, it's just so important. And, I've seen so many benefits of taking care of your health and well-being, not only in myself, but among, so many other people, the people that I work with, friends, family, just everyone. So I want to spread that to as many people as possible.
I love it. I love this. Wellness comes under many guises, doesn't it? It's not just
Yes.
eating healthy, exercising. It's about the mind, it's about the emotions. It's covers so many areas, doesn't it?
Yes, it really does. There's so many aspects when it comes to well-being and wellness that, we could talk for hours about different ways to support our well-being. But I think the key things that I like to highlight is that it's really important for individuals to find what works for them because everyone is different. So it's
Yeah.
really important to find what works for you and what can fit in with your lifestyle.
Okay. So how do we motivate ourselves to find our path? I
Yeah.
use myself as an example. I used to go to the gym all the time. I've got all forms of trainers, you name them. I don't want to advertise. I've got so many. I've had personal trainers galore, you name it, because I was following a trend. But then it was something in my life that made me say, right, you've got to stop following the trend. You've got to look after yourself. And I don't know where the motivation came from, Tyler. It just kicked in. It just kicked in. Results were slow at first, but when I started to see the results, not just in weight loss, but in the way I slept, the fact that I was concentrating better, that motivation, I don't know where it came from, but it just came. How do we
Yeah.
motivate ourselves?
Well, motivation, I mean, let's just touch on the word motivation. What is it? Because motivation really is to provide the conditions or the environment to get someone or get yourself to act or behave in a certain way. So to trigger yourself to act or behave in a certain way or trigger someone else. So that's what motivation is. How can we trigger action within ourselves if we're looking at motivating ourselves? So, how do we do that? There's lots of different ways that we can motivate ourselves, and we have to find what works for us as individuals, but we need to trigger ourselves. And you touched on it there briefly. You had a great trigger for you to kickstart your motivation to be healthier. But we can go one step further and find the triggers that work for us to motivate us to do certain things. And I'll give you a nice story about my sister. Actually, I'm very family orientated. My sister, I love her dearly. In fact, she's an up and coming singer.
Oh,
Tia
wow.
Lowe is her name. If anyone wants to check her out, but she wanted to get healthier and fitter. And she's someone who's gone to the gym here and there. Not necessarily been consistent, but now we've got a small change in her daily life that has motivated her to take action.
Okay.
And that has come in the form of accountability. So
Right.
every day, Monday to Friday, we've agreed that each of us are going to do 50 squats every day. She does 50, I do 50. And when we do those 50 squats, we text the other person to say, look, I've done my 50 squats. Now, if one of us doesn't text the other person, we have to transfer that person £5.
Oh, wow.
That is providing the motivation for her to and me to stay consistent. What would I rather? Send her £5 or do 50 squats? Now,
Okay.
that is a big enough deterrent for me and for her to ensure that we stay consistent. So, how can individuals find the motivation for themselves that trigger those behaviors? if you want to get fitter, how can you align that with something that motivates you? And the loss of £5 in this situation is enough of a motivating factor for
Okay.
both my sister and I to stay consistent.
I get that 100%. I want to tap on this word trigger, though. I know we're talking about motivation, and I totally understand why we need a trigger to kick off the motivation. Triggers for some people do not bring positive results. Somebody might be triggered by childhood trauma. Somebody might be triggered by something that happened in school. Somebody might be emotionally triggered by an ex-partner. So the word trigger can sometimes be a little bit negative. It can sometimes play on one's emotional mental health. Is there another word that you could put in the place of trigger? Because I'm just thinking, somebody's watching this now, and let's just say they are in a place where their partner wasn't too good for them and triggered them emotionally, and they want to get fit, they want to change their lives, and we're just talking about triggers now, and it's like, oh, but you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah. So how can we create the circumstances, if we want to use a different word, how can we create the circumstances that motivate us to take action? How can we do that? And when it comes to motivation, we can also connect it to our deeper purpose and things that are meaningful to us. A lot of people set challenges, for example, for charities. So, for example, if you run a half marathon, if you are raising money for a charity that has a deep meaning to you, that motivates you more to take action and go out for your weekly jogs. So how can you connect the things that you want to achieve to your deeper purpose? And I'll give an example from my life. Sometimes when in the gym, if I'm feeling a little bit lazy and I don't want to push myself in a particular, let's say I'm doing pull-ups, I think of my nephew and I think, what do I want my nephew to grow up and see? I want him to grow up and see someone who completes his repetitions in the gym. I want him to grow up and look up to me as an uncle. So though that connects my deeper purpose and makes me want to complete those pull-ups, for example. Now that's just what I use, but everyone has something meaningful, or hopefully meaningful to them, that they can use to connect to their deeper purpose.
As you were talking about your nephew, I was just thinking about a card that I was given when I had my first daughter, and it was a list of sayings. Children learn what they live. They may not necessarily do what you say, but they will do what you do.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say, what do I want my nephew to see? I want him to see somebody who completes their repetition, somebody who basically sets the goal and reaches it. And being the uncle now, he will go, well, hang on, Uncle Tyler did it, I'm going to do it. So it's really important. And in terms of motivation and wellness, there is no early time to start. Just start, because you're motivating your nephew now through your time in the gym to increase and to work on his physical wellness.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's very young. He's only 2 at the moment, but
doesn't matter.
But I use him. So he's not even aware of what I'm doing, right?
But isn't this the good time to? Because right now he's a sponge, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's going to soak up everything. So allow him to soak up positivity, so that his emotional wellness then is positive when he starts school, when he gets to high school, when he goes out in the workplace. It's such a broad subject, isn't it?
It is. And we could talk about it forever.
Oh, quite. Let's talk a bit more about motivation. What if someone is, let's say, north of 55, north of 60, and they've had a life of not really eating well, drinking lots of alcohol, possibly partaking of tobacco are not physically really looking after themselves. And life takes a toll. And unless a habit is given up, unless some exercise is done, then they're going to shorten their lifespan. How would you motivate somebody to really, come on, you've got to make some changes now?
Yeah.
Because the scaring people isn't always the best way.
No, it's not always the best way. And I think showing people success stories can help with that. It's very difficult to motivate someone that is stuck in their ways
Yeah,
to be healthier. It's much easier to motivate yourself and create the circumstances and conditions for yourself to help motivate to yourself. But with someone that's stuck in their ways, it's much more difficult. Now, if you can create an environment for them that helps them to take action, then it's easier. But the with someone older, it's much more difficult, and quite often it takes a serious life concern
yeah,
for them to take action or something positive. I know, for example, my nephew has brought positive actions from both of my parents actually, in terms of their health and wellness, because they want to be healthy grandparents, right? So
absolutely.
that's a positive situation that has inspired healthier actions. So it's really about finding something that we can tie together, whether if you respond to positive, then great. And if you need a little bit of fear, sometimes some of us need a little bit of
Yeah,
fear, like my sister and I, with the fear of losing 5 pounds. Sometimes we need that to get off our bum and take action.
absolutely. Is motivation a choice?
Ooh, that's a very great question. Is motivation a choice? No, motivation is hard. You can choose to try and act, but motivation comes and goes, right? One day you might wake up and think, I'm going to go for a run today. What motivated your mind to think like that? The next day, you might wake up and think, I'm not going for a run today. So, as I mentioned, motivation comes and goes. But if we can create the circumstances, it can allow us to stay consistent.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Tyler Lowe, I mean, look, we could talk a lot more about motivation, and I'm sure you've got many, many stories. Is there anything you'd like to round off this episode with in terms of motivation and where you get yours from and how you've seen a change in your health and your lifestyle and your environment since
Yeah.
motivation has helped to make a change?
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I think one of the key things of motivation is creating habits that allow you to stay motivated, implementing habits that help create the environment and the success. And I believe we're going to come on to that in one of the future
Mm,
Wellness Wednesday episodes.
okay. So we will leave that one there. Tyler Lowe of Living Loving Life Co. Do you want to give us your website details, your LinkedIn? So if anybody watching wants to get hold of you, they can.
Yeah, it's lovinglifeco.com, or just Google Loving Life, and you can search me on LinkedIn, Tyler Lowe.
Tyler, thank you so much once again. And I look forward to our next episode. Have yourself a good week.